Today, videos I mentioned and showed several clips of these orbs that are just blowing my freaking mind. I want to know what they are. They're just, like I've said before, these plasma balls. I have a couple more examples to show today on this. But anywho, Bob Lazar. A lot of people know who Bob Lazar is. If you don't, he's like the OG of whistleblowers. He came out in the late '80s, claiming that he worked at a facility called S4. It's an attachment of Area 51, working on reverse engineering alien crafts, particularly the propulsion system on these alien crafts. And his story has been the same for 30 plus years. I believe the man, actually the most consistent. And I've got a few clips here that kind of back up videos. But anyhow, here's some clips of Bob Lazar. Maybe I'll.
Now, I'm not in, believe it or not, I'm not into UFOs. I don't follow stories or,
Even
listen.
after your experiences?
No, I'm fascinated with the technology, and it irks me like every night I go to sleep that, that it was my own doing, essentially, that prevented me from continuing on in the project. I mean, that to be on that cutting edge of technology is so alluring to me.
Right.
But, by the same token, I don't really care that there's aliens or where they come from. I mean, the prize is the technology, and that's what I'm fascinated by. But so I don't listen to UFO stories and that sort of thing.
I
But
put this one in here because can you imagine what that would feel like to. That being said, it was his own doing as far as him being kicked out of the project and not being privy to any more, top secret technology. And the fact that he was trying to also do humanity a service and society a service and tell us, hey, the government's lying. There's this technology out here. But at the same time, it was ripped away his opportunity to learn anything else about it or know anything else about the technology. And I could see where that would be hard to deal with.
What makes Bob Lazar compelling, in some ways, is that he's different from other conspiracy theorists who come up with outlandish claims. He openly admits that he did not have access to every part of the ship and only knows what he does because he was reverse engineering the propulsion. When trying to legitimize the claims made by Bob Lazar, a few things stand out. First, prior to Bob Lazar going public with information about Area 51 the public had no knowledge of, the secret testing that occurred at the base. It was his claims that brought it the attention that it receives today. Remarkably, it's been disclosed that secret projects have been tested at the base and have led to aircraft like the stealth bomber. Bob even has taken groups of people to watch these tests that only a few people knew were happening. Second, Lazar claimed to have used a very unique security access system to gain access to the base. His accounts describe a hand sensor that analyzes the bone density of an individual to identify them. The Air Force disclosed that such scanners were in use at Lazar's alleged time of employment. At the time of Bob's initial interview, there was no public knowledge of such technology. The most interesting proof for the legitimacy of the claims of Lazar is element 115. He talks about a core piece of the propulsion system on the craft he was studying, called element 115.
What's element 115?
element 115 is a super heavy element. It's something that we've only just recently synthesized. We only made 4 atoms of it, but the craft uses larger quantities of it, 223 gram little triangles of it. But it's a unique element. When it's exposed to radiation, it produces its own gravitational field, its own anti-gravitational field, and it's what's used to lift and propel the craft and create distortions around it. It's an amazing material, and it's certainly nothing that occurs here or naturally.
And it can be weaponized, and that's kind of the issue here. If this story is all true, that can be weaponized.
Absolutely.
What they're saying is there's element 115, and he talked about this in early interviews way back in the day, when I was still running around, Yeah, we recently created Element 115 using, I think, the Hadron Collider in Switzerland or wherever the hell it is, um, and mystical particle, that it's an actual particle that exists out there because we created a couple atoms of it. So that just gives more credit to his story that he was putting out years and years and years ago. But now I've got a couple clips of these orbs, and then I've got a clip of Bob Lazar, I think, explaining these orbs as best as he can, with the knowledge that he has. It kind of helps because it's driving me nuts. Like, what the hell are they?
More valuable types of crops, and you got to be a lot more careful around them. And it really hasn't been until recently that technology has advanced to the point where we can do these kinds of things in these very, very tight spacing, very precious crops around us as we're navigating through and doing those pre and post harvest work.
Is there any internal protection for the crew? Does the craft generate a gravitational field inside the craft itself?
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field. Being inside that field essentially doesn't shield you, but essentially you're in, and this is a terrible way to say it, almost in a different realm, because you're now influenced only by that gravitational field. For instance, people wonder how a craft like this can make a turn at such high speed, a 90-degree turn, when they would imagine people slamming up against the wall or something to that effect. Well, that really wouldn't happen. Inertia would have no effect. You're in a distortion, and don't forget that gravity distorts time and space, so really nothing is going to influence you while you're in there.
Describe the gravity amplifiers for us and some of their different operating configurations.
There are 3 amplifiers. The craft can operate on a single one, can lift off the ground.
I downloaded it, and then just now trying to make this video, I couldn't find it. But basically what he was saying, within all that process he was just describing in this last clip, that it causes the air particles around the craft to become ionized, which would cause them to glow like they do, which could be an explanation as to what people are seeing in the skies recently. Now this.
My name is
Today's a short one. That's all I got today. I'm gonna leave you off with one more video about Bob Lazar. Hopefully you come back and see me for the next one. Have a good one.
Into this craft, and what are you thinking when you're inside of it? Like, what are you seeing?
It's a very ominous feeling, because there are no, first of all, everything is one color. It's like a dark pewter color, and there are no right angles anywhere. It's as if somebody took, I've said this before, somebody took a model and fashioned it out of wax and then heated it just for a short time so everything melted. Everything looks like it's fused together. Everything has a radius of curvature where 2 items meet. It's a really weird looking thing, but there was almost nothing other than a small foldable hatchway that that looked recognizable. Everything was really unworldly, to pick on it, a way to describe it.
So you get inside this thing, and it's designed for something that's much smaller than a human being.
Yeah, you can't really stand up till you get to the very center of it.
And how tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
And what do you think this was designed for?
I'd say something close to half my height.
Wow. So these little 3-foot tallish creatures.
Yeah, and the seats were small too. I mean, obviously it was made, for something small. But there was no, there's nothing else in there. There's just seats, the reactor, and some of the subcomponents. There's no control panels. There's no bathroom. There's no decorative components or artwork or anything that you would recognize or trim. I mean, it's just a very bare bones thing.